Our daughters just got a new rhythm game, which they're playing back there. Now, I have ADHD, so I become easily distracted anyway. So chances are, at some point during the making of this video, I'm going to lose my train of thought. So I'm going to apologize ahead of time and let you know that when that happens, as I have a feeling it will happen more than once, in fact, I will try to get that derailed train of thought back on the rails and chugging down the line, metaphorically speaking. Hello YouTubers, this is cessnaace back again with a new video, the first in fact of a new series. Now I've got so many comics coming in, and so frequently now, that I decided I needed a new series where I can show those comics instead of waiting to show them in the My Comic Book Collection 30 More Comics video series, although they will be seen there too. What I'll do is, once I've read them, the ones that fall within the alphabet further down the line than where I am in the My Comic Book Collection 30 More Comics series, I will file them where they belong, alphabetically speaking. As for the ones that fall earlier than where I currently am in that series, in other words, I would have shown them had I had them at the time. Those I will put aside and read, and then once I've read them, I will put them in the section for the My Comic Book Collection 30 More Comics series, and I will at least be able to say something semi-intelligent about that comic when shown. Right. Now, this first one is a spin-off series from, what's the first issue of a spin-off series from Dynamite, called Barbarella Digitores. This is, as I said, issue 1. I'm sure, well, there are quite a few people out there who may not know what I'm talking about, but it is a cult film, the 1968 Paramount release, Barbarella, which starred Jane Fonda in the title role. She famously did a striptease during the opening credits in Zero Gravity. Now, the character of Barbarella is based on, well, the whole concept was based on a French comic series, which I've never seen. Created by Jean-Claude Forest. Digitores, based on the stories and characters by Edgar Rice Burroughs. I am subscribed to this series and Barbarella, but I needed this first issue. That is Barbarella as she appears in this series. Now, I didn't expect it to look like Jane Fonda for legal reasons, but for all I know, this could be closer to the way the character looked in the French comics than the film. I just don't know. Maybe someone out there who is familiar with the French comics can tell me. Now, Digitores. This, by the way, is not cover A, B, C, D, what have you. This is cover F, Seduction Incentive, art by Maria Sanapo. Bottom right. To the left of that cover is a cosplay cosplay cover, which is becoming more common, I've noticed. Cosplay covers and photo covers also. Now, they've made a printing mistake because there's a cover G seduction incentive, fine, and a cover H, and a cover J, and another cover J, which is different, and then a cover K, and then another cosplay photo cover L. I might need to get cover G. That looks quite seductive. All right. Now, the seller that I bought this from on eBay, M&M Comics, did not sponsor this video in any way, but I was so pleased with the transaction that I saved them as a seller, because this package, or the package that contained this comic, was extremely well done, and they threw in an extra bonus, and it was shipped very quickly. Okay, I've been debating at Patreon/cessnaace how to show comics like this. This is from Danger Doll Comics. Well, they prepared this comic. It was actually released by IndyPlanet, which offers print-on-demand comics. You can either get them as printed comics or as digital downloads for quite a bit less. In fact, they have well over 200 comics that are available as digital downloads for free. This one, though, I think is $1.99. I'm not into digital downloads on comics. This is their signature series, although it's not the only one they have. This is issue 6 of Danger Dolls. So yes, I do have the first 5 issues. Now, the writer who is credited to this series is Molly Whipple. But as I postulated at Patreon/cessnaace, I have my doubts as to whether this series was actually written or is written by a woman or not. True, men are depicted as scum in this series, and if they touch one of these characters, female characters, without their permission, they're going to get their, you know what, whooped. As it just so happened, I opened up to where there were 2 pages worth of panels with no nudity. But be forewarned that this series has a ton of nudity in it. Now, I was dismayed to find out that the story in this issue continues in the first issue of another series called The Domme, D-O-M-M-E. I can't show anything from those 2 pages. Okay, this is issue 7. By the way, the Danger Dolls, they are actually, well, they're kind of like secret agents who operate their own television channel, and they broadcast all of their takedowns and everything. And it's a strange concept. Anyway, issue 8. And the art is done by different artists from issue to issue. In fact, the first several issues, they changed from story to story within that particular issue. With issue 6, the entire issue is devoted to the same story, or to the one story. So it had the same artist. Now this was the freebie that was thrown in from M&M Comics, along with my order for Barbarella de Torres, whatever. This is DC Year the Villain, #1. Now, something I'm going to have to post at Patreon/cessnaace are comics that are inexpensive to purchase new. DC, for example, has an entire line of titles that you can pre-order that have a cover price of $1 a piece. And there's another publisher, I can't remember off the top of my head, I'd have to check to see what it is, who they are. But I found them because one of the ways you can search is by company, publisher, or you can search by what's coming next week. I see that train started to leave the tracks, but I got on there on there just in time. I was checking out the publishers that I wasn't familiar with. So I was calling up their stuff. And now you can select to have them sorted various ways, A to Z, Z to A, or if you're in England, A to Z, Z to A, least expensive to most expensive to least expensive, and so forth. I select least to most, and you can select whether you want to see 30, 60, I think it's 30, 60, or 90 items per page. Whatever it is, I select the highest one. But anyway, I found this one publisher where all of their comics have a cover price of between $1.20 and $1.50. And that intrigued me. So I went and pre-ordered some issues and then subscribed to all of their series. Now, because I have subscribed to them and pre-ordered on some of the issues, I'm entitled to a 20% discount. So these comics are going to cost me anywhere from 89 cents to $1.20 max. Interesting concept to have such a low cover price. But I think the number of pages is low. It's something like 16. I'd have to double check to see for sure. Now, we're going to switch to another publisher, an imprint of Boom Studios, Archaia. This is issue 1 of 12 of Jim Henson's Beneath the Dark Crystal. And if you haven't seen The Dark Crystal, where have you been? I saw that movie when it came out decades ago in the theater and was just amazed by it. Now, it uses puppets, but puppets unlike anything Jim Henson had ever used before. Now, I didn't see Labyrinth in a theater, but I did see Dark Crystal. Issue 2. Issue 3. Now there is a new Dark Crystal series that has just started called The Dark Crystal Age of Ascension. And that's getting its own Netflix original. Premieres tomorrow. And it looks interesting. And also, it's obvious that while there is some CG in it, it's primarily done with puppets, just like the original film. Now, by the time I subscribed to this series, or at Things from Another World, I'd already missed my chance to get issues 1, 2, and 3. They were already out of stock. So I started with 4. Now, you no doubt noticed that I had issues 1, 2, and 3. That is because I bought them in a lot on eBay. A lot that contained the first 4 issues. So that is why I have a copy from Things from Another World and a copy this just a generic piece of tape on because I didn't get it from Things from Another World. Which those stickers are still holding up remarkably well. There's some issues I've opened up half a dozen times and they still adhere perfectly. I wish Atari Age used that kind of adhesive, whatever they're using. Issue 5. Six. 7. 8. 'Oh, I have read the first 2 issues, but I haven't read these subsequent issues yet. Issue 9. Issue 10. These are also available, or this series is also available as a trade paperback. Issue 10. And we're going to have to stop with this series on 11 because you know what? I haven't received issue 12 yet. Next up, from the same publisher, we have a series of 4-issue miniseries, and I read the first issue from the current series, well, the most current series, and was so impressed with it that I immediately, I've subscribed to the main series, which will get me all of the subsequent miniseries, if there are any additional ones. But I've been buying the other series on eBay. Now, I don't have, well, first of all, this is Jim Henson's The Storyteller, Tale 1 of 4, Fairies. Now, there's another series called Jim Henson's The Storyteller, Dragons, but I don't have any issues of that. Wait a minute. Tale 1. Okay. But misfiling. Tale 2 of 4. Tale 3. These 4-issue series are also available in trade paperbacks. and tale 4. Now we go to Jim Henson's The Storyteller, Giants. This is tale 1. Two. 3. 4. Okay, this is the very first that I read of Jim Henson's The Storyteller, and it's what convinced me to buy everything else. This is tale 1 of 4 of Sirens. This is the story told in this issue, The Mermaid and the Fisherman. Sirens Tale 2. Wait a minute. Yeah, I knew there was one that was like this. These are both Tale 2. But I have 2 different covers. Tale 3. Tale 3. Tale 3. This must have been when I started ordering 2 cover variations when they were available. Tale 4. Now, alphabetically speaking, there's another series. Jim Henson's The Storyteller, Witches, but I don't have it yet. In fact, I haven't purchased it yet because of financial reasons. Now, this is one of the alternate covers for Jughead the Hunger versus Vampirella. It's made to look like a VHS rental case. Not the main cover, that's a variant. But it is issue 1. don't know how you rewind a comic. Issue 2. If I didn't already say, published by Archie. Issue 2. And issue 2. I'm kind of more partial to this one. That's personal preference. Issue 3. I'm interested in this series because how did Vampirella come to be? Did Vampirella bite Veronica? Cover variation on issue 3. Vampirella does have dark hair. Okay, that's the most recent issue I have of that. This is a 5-issue miniseries, also from Archie. Jughead's Time Police, issue 1. And issue 1 with a different cover. Issue 2. And the same cover, issue 2. Now, what happened was I received one of these damaged. It was this one. So I notified Things from Another World, and they sent me a replacement copy for free, and of course with free shipping. What I did was I took a photo of it. You can see it better there. Anyway, I took a photo of it and posted it on Patreon/cessnaace as a public post, and then I linked that to my message to Things from Another World, and like I said, they sent me a replacement copy which arrived fine. Okay, I love this publisher. American Mythology Productions. They haven't been around long, but you might get the wrong idea by what I've got so far, as far as what they published. This is issue 1 of Laurel and Hardy. Now, this is part of American Archives, or AM Archives is what it says. This reprints issue 1 of Gold Keys, Laurel and Hardy, from 1967, of which there were only 2 issues. So I don't know what they're going to do. after they released the second one. Because other publishers in the US released Laurel and Hardy comics. As a matter of fact, Laurel and Hardy comics also were released in other countries. This is issue 1 of Laurel and Hardy Classic Follies. This reprints and translates into English the first issue of Laurel and Hardy published in France. Now, I went online, did some searching on eBay, for example, and found quite a few issues of Laurel and Hardy published in other countries, including, for example, Sweden. So, they may get around to doing those too. This has finally been added to Things from Another World. You can now subscribe to it. For the longest time, I was seeing this on the back of issues from American Mythology, and it wasn't listed as a title you could subscribe to yet. However, American Mythology I have discovered by doing a search for everything from American Mythology on Things from Another World, that they published some really hardcore horror titles. So I have subscribed to some of those just to see what they're like. Now, the Orville from Dark Horse Comics. This is issue 1. It is part 1 of a 2-parter called New Beginnings. This takes place between the events of seasons 1 and 2 of the television series. I have read that, and I have read issue 2. I should have shown this one. Issue 3, by the way, will be part 1 of another 2-parter called The Word of Avis. Now, in my review of this series, although I've only had 2 issues to go by, is it kind of reminds me of the Gold Key Star Treks that were published from late 1960s to the late 1970s. If that series of comics had been merged or mated or whatever to comics based on Star Trek The Next Generation. Now, these comics are written by writers of the television series. Okay, now we get to something else I've already read. This is from Dynamite, although it takes place in the world of Archie. This is Red Sonja and Vampirella meet Betty and Veronica, issue 1. Okay, some comics fell. I've debated on whether I should subscribe to Mars Attacks. I wasn't all that thrilled with the film, which I do have on DVD. There's Betty and Veronica. Red Sonja and Vampirella are right there. That's Vampirella. This tells the story of a series of murders in Riverdale committed by one or more vampires, and they've been killing off students, faculty of Riverdale High, and other characters. I'll do this. Because we've only got these 3 left. This is issue 2. Now, there are several covers to choose from. This is the one I like the most because it has the same graphic style of your typical Archie comic from about 10 years ago and back further. You don't really see Archie in this series. He only had a brief cameo in the first issue, and that was it. I also liked this cover of issue 3. There is, by the way, Vampirella started in 1968, I believe, well, late 60s in any event, from Warren Publishing. There's a publisher that I found at Things from Another World called Warrant Publishing, and they are publishing comics in the style of Warren, using artists and writers that worked at Warren, but writing original material, creating original material. For example, Warren had a title called Creepy. Warrant has a title called Creeper. I think it is. Anyway, I did subscribe to it. And we end with issue 1 from volume 5 of Vampirella from Dynamite. Okay, that's going to do it for this video. I have 4 more packages that are en route. Another massive package about to be en route. Well, actually, there are 5 en route because I forgot about the one from Radio Comics. And I have placed additional orders from IDW and from IndyPlanet. Although, what I ordered from IndyPlanet is nothing like what you have seen so far that I have purchased from IndyPlanet, unless you have seen videos that are no longer up. Well, one of the titles I ordered was Steve Ditko in Outer Space. Anyway, shout out to Mark McElligott and Graham and Alex is Playing and Bamser and SkyMall. And of course you can find a complete list of all of my Patreon supporters down in the description box. Until next time, stay awesome.